Alright, we're back. And in my wheelie spot, there's all these horses over here. It's pretty low horsepower. So that means there's going to be horse poop all over everything when it comes time for me to go do whirlies again over there. That's silly. Oh well. Well, I had something I want to talk about. You know, this is something that is inspired by Yammy Noob, a video that I don't know when it was that he did this, but Bammy Boob, he was talking about different myths, motorcycle maintenance myths or something. He was kind of giving people a hard time about cleaning and lubricating their chains and all this stuff, but he touched on something that I don't think we've talked to the subject that much on this channel, and that's about oil and oil changes. Those of you who know me know that I'm one of those Rotella people, and I'm talking about T4, and which is more of a conventional oil, is also a wet clutch base oil, wet clutch. And so is T6. T5 is a blend. It is not wet clutch rated. And I'm going to talk about why I use T4 over T6 here in a minute. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring that out in the open here. The engines that I've opened up, even like the valve covers and things, there's always like this film, and it's not like a slippery film, it's like a, I don't know, it's like a stain that is on that engine components that I see on T6. You know, I don't really know why, I just know that it does. And the reason why that concerns me the reason why that concerns me is, like, I don't get that with my T4, the more conventional oil. I do 1,000-mile oil changes on the ODRZ. I run it in my sport bikes, and even in the Bandit. I've even ran it in the crankcase of the YZ250 for a long time. It's now got Dick's. No, it doesn't have Dick's oil in it anymore. It's got AMSOIL in there, but it's wet clutch rated and it works just fine for my use in all these engines. Why is that? You know, if we go back and look at the very popular YouTube channel, Project Farm, he did some comparisons a while back between T4 and T6 and a few other oils, but not in the motorcycle application where you're in a wet clutch environment. But one thing that they did do was evaluate the film strength of those oils. And the notable difference between the T6 and T4 was the cold start or the cold application. Well, where that material will be in that temperature, I don't think you'll be riding your motorcycle, but it's something that you do want to be aware of. So that's kind of my main thing. The knocks on the T6 is that staining. The knock on the T4 is the coldest of the cold operation. It's not going to be as fluid. So it's something to be aware of. But the big plus on the T4 is if you're going to do often oil changes, you know, fairly often, well, it's cheap. It's inexpensive. I'm not going to say it's cheap. It's less expensive as some of these, you know, Red Lines and some of these other ones where you could damn near buy a gallon of T4 for the quart these other expensive oils, which that doesn't make any sense. So I've asked Project Farm to put these other oils that are for motorcycle specific and do a comparison. He just hasn't got to it yet, and I'm sure he's been asked that before. The big thing about that is on these oils are you don't have a certain, and I'm not as researched and informed as some people, it doesn't have the additives that your conventional oils for like non-wet clutch applications they do have to prevent wear or to lubricate. And some of that may have something to do with also the overall contaminant load, but you have to go back and look at what an engine oil is supposed to do. And thinking about that, you have to say, okay, its job is to obviously lubricate. I just mentioned it a minute ago. It's contaminant dispersion, or put them in suspension. Okay, that's fair enough. But it also has to do with cooling. That helps disperse that heat dispersion. So you have lubricating, contaminants in suspension, and heat dispersion. So lubricating, one thing that I like about what Project Farm does is he has his bearing, right? He has his bearing that he puts, it's spinning against this area, and he always starts it without with it lubricated to start with. It's got the oil on that surface, but it has to do with the oil film strength, basically. It's already went by. That's weird. But that is very pertinent in our transmission, because especially on most motorcycles, your transmission shares the same oil bath as your top end of your motorcycle and your bottom end, with your crankshaft and all the bearings included, but also that of the transmission. And the clutch. The clutch works under friction, so if you have too much lubrication, it won't bite, no matter how hard of a spring set that you have, however strong of a finger you want to have, or cable, to be able to retain the maximum spring pressure. So there's kind of a balancing act with all of that. But the big thing that I think Rotella does a really good job of is having a strong film strength. These people have no clue how to drive. And that's really pertinent with the transmission and transmission wear, because your shift forks are kind of gliding on that transmission, and they're very dependent upon that oil film strength. And just like these cam over buckets with the shims in between it, where they come into contact, the cam comes into contact with the buckets, that film strength has to be strong. Otherwise, you're going to have damage to your cam lobe, and also the bucket. When that bucket starts grabbing or getting a damage on its surface, then you're going to have problems really fast. So there's a balancing act in your oil on how slippery it can be. And a lot of these other ones do an excellent job. T4 and T6 both do an excellent job of that. And I think now you have a little bit better understanding as to why I use T4. Just because of my frequency. That oil will break down eventually. All oils will. What a dumbass. But if you change it relatively often, which you really should, because you can give your engine an inspection every time by judging its contaminants. Yeah, when you look at your towel, when you're looking at your dipstick level and all of that, you get a certain level of understanding of, oh, it's this color now, it's a little dark, or it looks pretty good. Well, that's a tool for looking at it, but it doesn't let you know to the level, in my opinion, as when you actually empty the entire contents of it. And also be able, like on the DRZ here, it has a magnetic drain plug. You also get to look at your filter, and you look at all the contaminants that are on it. That's a tool to look at what's going on. Is this thing wearing a lot? Am I in trouble? What's the problems going on here? Well, you don't know unless you change it or you inspect it. So, but enough of that baloney. Time to hang the nooner. Gotta touch that. Oh, gotta wait for the car. We're not gonna be unsafe out here. Let's see here. 4, 3. We'll go back down to third gear. Make sure nobody else is coming. This wind's kind of grabbing me. I better set her down. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Good thing I set her down. Ha ha ha. Had to look back over there. Got away with one, boys. Rotella also repels law enforcement. Completely factual statement. Anyway. But yep, oil. My choice is T4. Does that mean that's the oil that you should use in your DRZ? Or the oil in which you should use in your sport bike or your blah 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 blah? No, you make your own decision. Just as long as, if it is a wet clutch, you use a wet clutch rated oil. And how do you know what is wet clutch rated? Well, on the back of a lot of these, they say, a lot of them they say JASO, MA2. Good grief, let's blow a bunch of trash out here. So JASO rating, MA2, usually you see those side by side. And if you do see that, that is a wet clutch rating. And if you don't see it, you might not be in too good a shape. I'm hearing something. I'm hoping I don't have a flat that's trying to happen. That'd be a real bummer. I think I'm okay. I think it might have been just the asphalt surface. But yeah, you got to make sure and have a wet clutch rating on your motorcycle oil. Unless you have a Ducati that sounds like it's about to fall apart the whole time. Clang, 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 dry clutch. Good grief, they're noisy. Don't stick your finger in there. Oh man, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you should know. Kids are peeping. They had their mini bikes. So yeah, oil. What oil should I use? That age-old question. You definitely should. You definitely should use oil. That's the question. It's been answered. And now we're moving on. So school's out. Everybody's having a great time. For a lot of folks, anyway. Some people may still have school. Sucks to be you. My last day of school was like 20 years ago when I graduated college. Hello again. I didn't even do nothing, and he mad. Looking back over there. Hello. Hopefully I'm not getting a flat. That would suck. Because I heard that sound. I'm like, well, what is that sound? It might have been just some wind noise because the wind was at my back. I'm not really hearing it now. Maybe it's my oil saying, hey, you know what? You did a great job of talking about me. I love you. That's what we'll do. We'll just pull over right here and do a quick little inspection. Let's take a little look. Yeah, we're good. I don't know why I was freaking out. Nothing to worry about here. Hey there, guy. I would do a nice fat wheelie, but that would distract the youngsters from their education. On the field, their field of play, learning things. There's a kid over there digging in the ditch with his stick. I'm gonna rustle up a bullfrog. So what do you think about our little oil discussion? What oil do you use? Am I completely out of my mind using that? I don't think so, because I've been using it for 12,000 miles on the Stroker Big Bore, so I think we're okay. Little wheelie over here real quick. Oh yeah. And we're going to the gym, going to hit some shoulders and back and traps. A little bit of cardio. So I better stop riding my motorcycle for a minute and go get that done. Ooh, first gear. Just a little throttle up. That place looks familiar. Hey, anyway. What do you want me to talk about on one of our rides next time? What sounds like a good idea to you? Share it with me. We'll have a discussion, and I'm going to try to have a little bit more substantial conversations. That way we can have that discussion and maybe go back and forth a little bit. What do you think? Thanks for watching.